Welcome to the Fantasy Hotline,
where we talk about your wildest fantasies.
Elves, dragons, and gnomes.
Weird systems of money, chosen ones, and more.
We're your hosts, Chris
and Claire.
This is a podcast for people who've read a book and feel like they have no one to talk to about it.
Yeah, because you try and talk to your friends about it, and they're like, okay, so wait, there's a system of magic?
Yeah, what's that? They're just like, get away from me, stop talking. I'm not going to read the book.
Why is everyone's name 18 syllables?
Or one with a bunch of like hyphens and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're hoping that this can be the answer to all you lonely people who feel like for all you lonely people.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you're at a sleepover and you see a commercial for Lava Life in 2003 and it's like, call Lava Life, and then you call it with your friends and it's just like one weird dude. We want to be that one weird dude.
But for elves.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, top tier elves for me personally.
Oh, elves are?
Yeah.
That's a good point of discussion for later episodes.
I agree.
Your tiers of magical things, like dragons for me.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Number one, definitely dragons are the number one beings that humans have imagined. You're an elves girl.
I'm an elf.
Horses.
Chris, you know me well enough to know, obviously, I'm a horse girl.
Elves riding horses.
Yeah, I'd like to be one. So yeah, I don't know. We wanted to do this podcast because we are both obsessed with fantasy novels, and we're also both stand-ups, and we discovered this when Chris did a show of mine, and we were yelling about Lord of the Rings for 10 minutes.
We
backstage.
Dominated a green room, yelling about Legolas and all that type of stuff, and everyone else in the green room is like, you guys should probably talk about this in microphones in private later on.
Yeah, and we were like, but did you know they carved the Pillars of Rohan on set in New Zealand?
You know, they're screaming death before they charge into the Battle of Rohan there.
Did you know the actor who played Theoden made up the sword high five that they do before they charge?
I didn't know that. Did he?
Yeah, he did.
God, that's so cool. Yeah, I
just rewatched all the DVD extras. Yeah, I like really hardcore binged all those.
Oh man, and I'll next time invite me. So we just wanted to, we just discovered that we were both big fantasy nerds, and we were like, let's make like a book group podcast, whatever this is, and we're gonna, I mean, when do you think you started realizing that this was all you wanted to read?
I feel like I can't remember when I didn't read fantasy novels. It was like growing up. I remember the first book I was obsessed with was Matilda, the Roald Dahl novel, and she can move things with her mind. And I would just try so hard to like move a book from the bookshelf. I was like, what if it could happen?
We could do this.
Like, it's on me. Like, I was like, I internalized it, and I was like, it's my failing that I can't move the book, not because it's not possible.
I feel like that's a common. I had a best friend who waited up. Was it your 11th birthday? He waited up until midnight of his 11th birthday to try to get that letter from Hogwarts.
Oh my God.
Stayed up till like 4 a.m.
Sweetie.
Yeah.
No.
My poor boy. Mine was my dad reading. He would like read to bed, read to my brother and I. And the only books I wouldn't be interested in anything that if there weren't like, if I couldn't imagine something great and like amazing happening. So he would like read mysteries and stuff like that and like thriller, and I was like, like, what do you think if there were griffins? Like,
my dad would also read me bedtime stories, but I wouldn't let him read me a book. I would make him make them up. Yeah. And there were two categories. It was either Peter Pan or Batman. I need to make up the stories.
Either way, I want a flying boy.
Yeah. And then if he did Batman, I would be like, and you gotta sing the song. And I would make him go, Batman. And then he would be like, okay, like, I'll tell the story now. Yeah. So I was just always interested in like, I guess like not typical, not like realistic stories.
And it's like escapism almost.
Yeah,
if we're gonna
totally.
get into the nitty gritty of it. For me, it's just like, I don't want to read about our world. Like, I'm already in our world.
And
like,
it's bad.
Yeah, it's not 7, fun. Yeah.
But I'm already trying to opt out.
Yeah, get me out of here.
I want to talk to a horse with my mind.
Did Harry Potter have a big effect on you?
Yeah, So my dad is British and my my granny and granddad like sent us the book, like the English copy when it came out, and I read 10 pages and thought, this is boring as hell, because like the first 10 pages is just at the Dursleys.
Yeah, he's just in a closet.
And then my mom read it and I was like, oh, is that good? And she's like, you wouldn't know, you're a muggle. And I was like, what is that?
That sounded rude as heck, Mom.
Yeah, I was like, my mom just called me a slur.
Yeah. Read the book and you're like, actually quite rude of you.
Yeah, indeed. So I loved Harry Potter. I think when I was younger, I was a huge introvert, which I know is hard to believe, but I was like super shy and quiet. And I feel like fantasy novels were my way of imagining like, oh, like I could be really cool and special and interesting.
Yeah. In what ways?
Like, if I could sword fight, I could be popular. Like, I remember starting 6th grade and thinking everyone here would respect me if I had a huge sword with a magical gemstone and in my head, I was like, and I'm bringing the sword to school to be like, what's up?
Like a Machiavellian analysis of you're like, will they fear me or because of the sword or love me because of the sword?
Exactly.
Like,
And I was like,
I'm hoping both.
Yeah, exactly. I was like banking on being loved for having a sword instead of being like, okay, this child brought a weapon to school.
Did you ever do like LARPing or anything like that?
No, I never went as far as LARPing. I can find you did LARPing.
I LARPed. Okay. Yeah.
And what was like kind of like give me a little bit of that intro to how you LARPed.
Yeah, right. So I was in elementary school and we were always like biking down by the by the parks and stuff, and there was like middle schoolers that were LARPing there, and everyone had like foam swords and they were dressed in like tunics and all this cool stuff, and that looked like the coolest, most fun thing you could do. So I got into that throughout like end of elementary school and then it like into middle school a little bit. Like every summer, it was basically like instead of going to like my friends would be going to like soccer camp or whatever, I was going to Renaissance adventure camp.
Oh my God.
So I did the sword fighting thing too. One time, to an extent, my friend and I, we knew that there was a girls' soccer practice.
Oh my God.
So we brought our swords up and sword fought next to the girls' soccer practice.
Okay, and so how many dates did you get after that?
Oh, every one of
100?
them. Yeah, they lined up and they were like, "Knight me."
They're like, I brought you my orange slices.
I brought you this Capri Sun. You're really good with that long sword.
They know all the swords.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, one-handed with a rapier? Like, that's
Is that
incredible.
A cutlass? That's amazing. Did you make that yourself? I did, actually.
That is so funny. I went to horse camp.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're I was more infantry. You were cavalry.
Yeah, I was cavalry. Yeah. Oh my God, that is so funny. And when you were LARPing, which for the uninitiated, which if you're listening to this and you don't know what LARPing is, you were a much more well-adjusted child than either of us, and probably had friends.
It's an acronym for something, but basically it means you're an adult-ish person playing pretend games with.
It stands for live action role playing.
Okay, yeah, sure. Live action role, pretty easy. Yeah, I should have known that one. But for me, I was a shapeshifter and I had a sword and it was tight.
Oh my God, what would you shapeshift into?
I think like a velociraptor or something like that.
A little Jurassic Park.
Yeah, bring in whatever I wanted.
That's amazing.
And the camp counselors were like, I thought they were the coolest people in the world, but looking back, you're like, oh, like maybe we should investigate some of those people.
Oh no!
Like land pirates of some kind.
Yeah. I feel like I did so much. I was such an online kid. I loved Neopets, and each Neopet you could have your own website for it. And so I was obsessed with making my Neopet have a cool website, and also the neopets.com had like a fake newspaper where users could submit like stories about their Neopets, and I filled like diaries with like the adventures of my Mirka. Stuff like that.
What's a Mirka?
It was like a little cute koala monkey with a really long tail, and the website had this game that was essentially Snake, but they called it Mirka Chase, and you'd have to get negs, which were like a form of currency, which were just Neopet eggs. And so like I would write these stories, and then I was fully obsessed with Harry Potter, and I don't remember the names of the message boards, but I would like create my own characters and go on these message boards, and people just like posting back and forth, and it was like a big deal to like go on Photoshop and find, like, you'd search like hot girl and like take a picture of like a girl and Photoshop like the Slytherin banner behind her and be like, yes, this is what I look like.
Full like just
Yeah.
Pretending. Yeah.
Absolute freak shit.
Yeah.
And then that turned into
That's what I was going to say,
Yeah.
but then I went with pretending instead.
And then that went into writing fan fiction, and okay, here's the big reveal, which is, I think this is where everyone goes with like stuff they like, but especially in fantasy, is at some point you're like, I'm horny. And so
I got to do something about this.
And it's going to involve wizards. And me and a group of my friends in 8th grade had a notebook.
Oh, the notebook.
Yeah, in which like God knows where it is, hopefully like burned somewhere. But we would write erotic fan fiction between all of our Harry Potter characters and like the actual characters themselves, and like trade it off between periods. So it would be like essentially we were writing like sex scene. I mean, nothing like, obviously we didn't know what was going on, but it would be like, yeah, Hermione and Snape raw dogged. Like, why not, we are 12, 14, whatever. And
what was this friend group like what was it like? Was it mostly women? Was it all girls, all ladies? Okay.
Yeah, and you know what, I'm still best friends with all of them to this day.
That's bonding. So it
like
there.
Really worked out. And I don't remember anything specific except we renamed all of the houses to be like hornier. So we were like Griffin. I'm gonna say them all.
Do it.
Okay, so Hufflepuff was Huffleslut.
Yep.
And then Gryffindor was Griffin Whore.
Yeah.
Ravenclaw was just Ravenho. We kind of phoned that one.
That one
in.
we were like, we give up. We don't know what rhymes with claw.
Exactly. And then Slytherin. This was a real lazy one. We were like Slither in.
Yeah.
What if there's a dash?
You just have to say it a little differently.
Exactly.
It's you get it. Slither in. Wherever.
We're open-minded. We're open-minded. It's the North Shore. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like forever I was so obsessed with fantasy novels, and I feel like it was something where you're like, oh, one day this will go away and I'll be normal, and you're like, I cannot read nonfiction.
Yeah.
There's no wands.
You're like, what? Can they cast a spell? Let's get out of this.
Is there anything about this in the stock market?
Yeah.
Devilry.
Yeah. When is the prophecy being fulfilled?
Exactly.
I'm fucking out of here if there's no prophecy. Oh, that's awesome. Well, so yeah,
But how did you?
God.
Do you feel like you, like while you were LARPing, were you also reading like fantasy novels the whole time?
Yeah, for sure. I was reading like the Golden Compass and Artemis Fowl and stuff. The Golden Compass had a big influence. I always liked the demons or daemons. Yeah. The Matt Damons just following everybody around. That was so cool. It's just like you have like a little spirit animal like that. That still like sticks with me. I still think that's really cool.
Do you feel like part of the reason why fantasy novels appealed to you is because you were like, what if animal? Like it was all about animals. Like so much for kids is animal related.
I loved pets. Yeah. I was like, what if I had a pet that was also like my soul? Like that's like what it is in Golden Compass, or like it'd be tight to have like a steed of some kind. Yeah, how cool would that be?
I have a vivid memory of coming back from a field trip sometime and just thinking, what if like a horse showed up and like broke down the door of the bus and was like, Claire, get on.
I will take you away, Claire. Yes. And then you're like, oh.
I'm like, yes. Everyone will finally recognize me.
I will be getting off this bus now.
Like
I have a horse that might be romantically interested in me.
Yeah, it's like,
I think I'm in love with this horse.
It's actually a prince.
He's a horse in public. But when we get home, he turns into a full prince.
Yeah, and he's my age. Nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong at all.
He's only 6 months older than me, and that's fine.
Very normal.
Oh, man. Yeah, all that, like, the animals thing's a good point. I remember I bought, like, had, like, a dragon's, like, guidebook or something like that. I remember it was, like, this big, like, picture book that it was of the perspective of some guy who was going to all these different remote parts of the world and discovering the dragons that lived there and all this freaking cool, like,
I feel like I know the book you're
diagrams.
Talking about.
Yeah, if I could get that book, it would, and if I had a coffee table, it would be on my coffee table.
Wait, you don't have a coffee table?
I do, but it's more like covered in beers from last night and a bong. You know what I mean? 'Cause I'm very cool.
Yeah. Okay. Chris is trying to impress the
I'm
listeners.
Very tight, listeners. All three of you for now.
The beer, it's all IPA.
Nope. I wish.
IPAs are bad.
Miller High Life.
I would drink a Miller High Life over an IPA
a nice frosty buddy, as our mutual friend Maddie Ryan would call him.
I like to put hot sauce on the edge of my cheap beer.
Whoa.
It's kind of game changer.
What?
Yeah, you just put hot sauce on the rim, so every time you take a sip of the beer, you also drink hot sauce. And I like it.
I don't know if I'm really into this idea or super concerned for you, but I'm gonna try it.
It has like a name. There's a
thing for it?
There is a thing for it. Can't remember it.
Oh man, that's
if it was,
cool as hell.
You know, a secret amulet.
Yeah,
I'd remember it.
If this was the a fantasy novel, it would be a mighty strong cultural thing. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh, you put hot sauce in the rim of your beer in this region, do
yes,
you? Like,
yes, exactly.
Yes, we all do that in Dumnomnia.
Dumnomnia?
Yeah. Dumnomnia. That's an old name for a kingdom in England, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I should know that, being half British.
Yeah, you really should.
Yeah, I go there and the queen beats me. Doesn't recognize
You don't know Dumnomnia?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
So I feel like, okay, we should talk. So in this podcast, we are going to talk to you about different fantasy books that we've read and kind of break them down and talk about like the tropes in them and our opinions on them and that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
like you said, like we're each other's friend that is the only person that we can talk to about these things. And
but our overlap isn't even that big too.
No.
When we made our list, so we're going to have a list that we'll be talking about later, but when we made our list of books that we wanted to read, one thing that I noticed immediately was not much overlap. And then the more glaring thing that I noticed was that I had all male authors and you had all female authors.
Yes.
Or should we say male identifying authors and female identifying? I want to be right. I don't know how to.
I think you got to stop.
Did I nail it? I did it okay?
I think it's okay.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah, I think it's all right. No.
But yeah, so like that was weird. I immediately felt my inner like sexism guilt. I was like, I'm not reading works by women. What's wrong with me?
Well, you know, well, okay, first of all, I want to read the note you put in the Google Doc, which it was in all caps, said, "Holy shit, all authors are men. I'm a sexist."
Yeah, I didn't know, but I had a subconscious zero interest in reading anything but male authors.
But I think there's like if you think about how both of us and most people I think get into fantasy, you're reading it as a child and then you grow up and you keep like reading in that same vein.
Yeah.
And when you're a kid, there's like what is marketed to your parents. Like almost every book I read was like special girl fantasy novel, girl who can talk to horses, girl with this power, and you know you see it in fantasy books that are published today,
right? So
it does make sense to me that like
most of the stuff that I was reading was like like Artemis Fowl is like boy who chosen teenage boy genius.
I did read that though.
Or like I guess Golden Compass is written by a
it is
a woman, and it's
no, it's not.
Oh no, it's not.
It's written by a man.
But a woman's or lady, like it's a female main character.
Yes, Lyra, and then like she teams up with a guy eventually. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when I think about high school, I just became obsessed with Mercedes Lackey, who writes like just lots of horse girl type.
Never
books.
heard. Yeah, okay.
And anyway, so I feel like it was fun to see though, because like sometimes I feel like I'm like, oh, there aren't. I've read all the fantasy books.
Me too. I look through stuff and I'm like, it's gone. They're all gone. But it doubled my reading list, which is great.
And it's like clearly I have not.
No,
I have not read all the fantasy books.
Not at all. So do you want to get into our list?
Yeah. Okay. So what we decided is that once we kind of compared notes on what we already read, we decided that for our podcast we're each going to pick 3 books for the other person to read, and so we're going to take turns reading those books, discussing them in an episode. And it's kind of the big reveal moment of the podcast. And
this, I guess, in the reveal order is the order we'll be reading them in. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. And so, but the first book, so for the next episode, do we want to talk about that book first?
Yes. Okay. So we decided for the first episode, we were going to kind of come to...
Well, I guess the second episode. This is the first episode.
Okay, interesting.
This is episode 0.
Well, this is why I need to be on a podcast with a man, because this little brain can't handle that.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, 1 through 10...
I mansplain numbers.
What?
Good.
What even are those? I only look at pictures of flowers.
They're a boy thing.
Numbers are for boys. Yeah, exactly.
And the color blue.
Yeah, pink. is for girls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Girls.
All right. So yeah, this is episode 1. Anyway, Claire was wrong.
Yeah. Let it be known. Let it be known. Yeah. So I became obsessed with this book. And it's kind of like a hot new author in fantasy. Tamsin Muir is her name, and the book is called Gideon the Ninth.
Yeah.
And I read it right when Chris and I were deciding to like do this podcast, and I was like, dude, you got to read this book. It's so good.
And that was kind of for me, like, I guess unbeknownst to, I was like, I want to read this, and if it's good, then I want to do this podcast.
Oh my God, it was a test.
I was kind of like, let's see what her taste is.
Wow.
Yeah. Just I guess a little diabolical of me.
Okay, yeah.
But I
twisted actually.
Yeah. Well, I was like, did I kind of? No, I didn't really tell you that.
No, you had a secret plot this whole time.
Yeah, this whole time I'm the evil one.
Oh my God. Meanwhile, I was like, if he can respond to an email, then I'll do the podcast with him. Yeah. Kind of more low stakes.
Yeah. I was all about what I had to be responsible for you to want to do it, and then for me, I was like, she better have good taste.
Oh my God.
But it was.
I'll be processing this later.
It was a good book, and that's the book we're gonna discuss on episode 1. And
this episode 0.
If that happens, if Claire's not really mad about my,
you can't see, but I am staring daggers.
My diabolical test might have derailed the whole thing, but
it makes sense though.
It was a good book, and it's super. I hope she has a long career and writes tons of books, because I want to. I read stuff written like that. It's
so good. And I was like on a plane, and she has a novella that's like, I read it in like an hour, and it's about a princess who gets locked in a tower by a witch and kind of like what she does to escape. And it's like truly twisted. And it was like one of those things at the end where you're just kind of like, I don't even know if I like this.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't go back to being a princess. I don't want to ruin the novella for you because it's really good. But reading that, I was like, oh my God, I have to read the other stuff she wrote.
Do you think she writes... It might be like a subcategory. Like, is her stuff more like grim dark? Do you think within it's not like high fantasy, which it makes you feel good and things are green or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it's like fucked up, kind of, which I like.
Yeah, there's blood and all sorts of like weird, almost cannibalism, and like it's
it's dirty. Like your fingers hurt when you read it.
Yeah,
or
and
something.
She swears all the time,
which I like, because I'm sure we'll get to this in other episodes. But when fantasy authors try to make up fake swear words, my opinion, sucks.
Oh, it's the
worst. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Say fuck. There's going to be no word that you will be able to have like the same sort of cultural resonance as for a reader. If someone's like, fark, I forgot my sword. You're
Rusts.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, 9 irons.
Yeah.
Like, chips and eggs.
The winds.
Yeah. Cursed by the 4 Furies. You're like, God damn it. Say fuck.
Yeah.
Just say fuck.
Yeah. Well, I guess that kind of smoothly goes into my first book that I want to recommend.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Are you going to tell me, are we going to go back and forth? Or are you going to say, back and forth?
Right. Do you want,
Let's do that.
That was our first book, and now we're going to go into the 3 choices by each of us. So Gideon the Ninth, we're going to get more into it next episode. And then I guess, will this be our second book that we're reading? This one?
Yeah, and we'll have like a little, like we'll have some description in the like podcast. So if you want to read along with us, we'd absolutely love for that to happen. So we'll post a schedule essentially of all the books we're gonna tackle. I'm going straight academia.
Yeah.
We're gonna tackle these hard cross sections of literature.
Well, the first one that I want to read is Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie.
Okay.
And it's a super cool book
about revenge, if I might guess.
Yes, it is all about revenge, because revenge is best served cold. Heavy-handed title there. I think Joe Abercrombie is like probably one of my favorite authors that's still writing right now. Like, he's just everything's like very realistic. It's like kind of, I would say, like low fantasy, grimdark for sure. Okay. But it's like,
what would you define grimdark as?
Like they go for like realistic stuff over like amazing things. You know what I mean? Okay. Like, instead of
like, you see the hero struggle.
Yeah. Instead of the hero fulfilling a prophecy, it turns out there was never a prophecy, or something like or he's not even a hero, or something like that. It's more. Yeah, Joe Abercrombie's written most of his book. He's trying to like subvert tropes.
I see.
Throughout, and
cool.
Yeah, so this this book, it's not the first book you're supposed to read in his series, but it was the first book I read of anything he read. It's a one-off. His books are written, he's got a trilogy, then 3 one-offs that take place in between and then a second trilogy.
And it's all in the same world,
all the same world.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, there's the world is set up, it's like magic is dying in the world, and there's just humans, so I'm sorry there won't be any elves.
You know what? I will be okay.
There's a few horses.
All right. I'm back in, baby.
There's barbarians, and it takes place in like kind of this city-state continent, like very much. It's called Styria. It's a lot like Italy. And it's about a woman who...
They eat a lot of pasta there.
Yeah. There's tons of rigatoni.
Is that offensive? I'm like, a meatball.
It will be soon, apparently. But for now, we
whatever.
can get away with meatball. And it's about a woman. Yeah, it's like you said, it's revenge. It's about a woman who's... they attempt to kill her. And it's a 7-part book about her taking revenge on the 7 men that tried to kill her.
I love that.
It's just so like gritty, and like... There were parts where I had to like put it down. I was like, "Oh my God, that's fucking disgusting!" Like amazing. Like yeah, he's just he's so vivid, and yeah, I'm excited. I hope that because that book got me fully entrenched in everything he's written. So.
I've never read any of Joe Abercrombie, but I've seen his name. Like I know he's like a prolific fantasy author.
Yeah.
Offer.
Well, that's actually pretty accurate. He does kill a lot of his characters.
He offers them.
Yeah, he offers them to the gods.
Yes. Cool. I'm excited. I feel like this is going to sound so judgmental. I feel like part of the reason I didn't read his books, I was like, Abercrombie and Fitch,
dude,
loser. Like, that's
agreed.
so cruel.
I would see it on I like do Goodreads,
yeah.
And you can type in all the books you've read, and it'll give you recommendations of what you should, and his was always on the top, and I was just like, no, I'm not reading anything. Just freaking ripped jeans. Like,
I'm like, oh
I'm
God,
out of here.
It's like takes me emotionally back to a place of like walking by the Abercrombie store in the mall and being like, I am disgusting. Yeah. Like, look at these hot people.
I'm not one of those.
Exactly. I'm like, my mom will look at the polo shirt that's $50 and like say it's not worth it, and force march me out of the store, like on a leash.
Well, yeah, I think that'll be a good first choice, and I think. Yeah, okay. We can't judge a book by its author's name. Is the lesson there?
Yes. One of the many we will be dispensing to you with our wisdom. Yeah. So, okay, I'll just reveal my first pick. I was feeling nostalgic. And so mine was Mossflower by Brian Jacques.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
Hell yeah.
Okay, he's looking at the list.
I love it. I'm not changing the list.
Good, okay. So I picked this because I loved Brian Jacques' books growing up. I loved Redwall. I just was like so taken by them. And I had recently reread Redwall and Lord Brocktree, which are like, in my opinion, 2 of the ones Redwall is like the original one, which is kind of funny because he references like the outer world, like one of the evil rats in Redwall is like from Portugal. And you're like, wait, what? Is this like taking place in like Spain or like why? Wow. There's no context, and it kind of shifts in the books, but Mossflower, I remember really loving, and he just is such a good writer, and his characters really stick out. I mean, when I think back on all of them, it does sometimes you're like, okay, yeah, it gets like a little repetitive in a way, but yeah, it was such a formative book. I'm curious to kind of revisit it now as an adult instead of being in high school. And we can kind of discuss the age-old question of like, are they mice-sized mice or are they like big-sized human-esque mice?
That's the one that always, dude, truly, yeah, you're like, and then are there humans ever?
Yeah, I mean, well, he references Portugal, but then it never in the later books after Redwall, like when I read Lord Brocktree, it's like a very contained world. And I will say, I do remember feeling like I was debating this topic when I was in middle school, and it's like in the Renaissance when all these philosophers were like, how many angels can fit on the head of a pin? It's like, were they human-sized mice or were they mice-sized?
Answer the fucking question.
Like, we will never know.
Is the abbey just a hole or is it an actual abbey?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah. How do they build it? It's like the questions you're not supposed to ask because it's fantasy and the
really
mice
getting
are
caught up.
talking.
Yeah, I have no problem with the existence existence of dragons or centaurs or anything, but how big are the mice?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I have to know.
Someone tell me, please.
Actually, this was my college degree. How big are the mice?
This is my thesis.
Yeah.
I never found out. We were left with more questions.
Exactly. I did not graduate. Yeah, so I feel like, honestly, you know Brian Jacques, I'm assuming.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Have you read Mossflower?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I figured this was going to be something we had both read already.
I'm excited to reread, though, because the same thing is kind of what you said. It was like, I read it. I remember I read, like, basically everything.
Yeah.
When I was younger. And he had a big influence on me, loving fantasy. Like, I think my dad read a lot of Brian Jacques to us when we were little, for sure.
Cute.
Yeah, so... Yeah, same situation for you. I'm excited to read it as full-grown adults.
Let's be honest, we're both 30.
Yeah.
Are you 30?
I'm 29.
Oh God, I'm gonna get off myself after this. I'm 30.
Dude, that's when I just had coronavirus 19, and that's honestly what I thought for the first like 3 days. I was like, well, I'm getting close to 30. Hangovers are bad, they tell me.
Oh my God. It's like, I feel like aged when you say that.
I was like, oh man, I'm like, I guess it's just a real bad hangover.
Oh my God. It's true. I had 3 glasses of wine the other night and I woke up and I was like, okay, I didn't drink 65 ounces of water. I'm decrepit.
My hangovers are getting worse for sure. Well, all right. Do we want to go in the next book?
Yeah, I want to know.
Cool. So this next one, I feel like is like it's what kind of got me back into reading again, and it's I think one of the better like cross sections of sci-fi fantasy. You know what I mean? And it's Red Rising by Pierce Brown.
Red Rising. Okay, happens to me once a month. You know what I mean?
That's such a brutal way to say that. Sorry, my red is rising.
Oh my God. I'm gonna use that in my real life.
You should. People will get away from you.
I'll be like, I can't go into work. Like, my red is rising.
Oh God.
Like the dog. My boss is like, okay, like worried about you.
This book's good. So what sucks about it is this is the first one of a trilogy, and it's the worst one for sure. I think it's like very. He wrote it when he was like 23 or something, which you can tell it's like it's got Hunger Games-y vibes to it, but it's like Romans in space and there's like cool lightsaber type things, and it's like just a huge epic,
like a saga.
Yeah, like a drama. I don't know what the word for space opera.
Space opera, yeah.
But it's very like he's definitely influenced by Dune and all that stuff. And the reason I know we're mostly fantasy, but it's still got like so many of those like aspects and like visuals that are very much fantasy, but there are spaceships and stuff like that. And it's just a really cool book, and it kind of got me back into reading again. So yeah, I'm
excited to read it. I feel like I tend to go more pure fantasy than sci-fi. Yeah. Like only recently, like Gideon the Ninth is kind of sci-fi, and I mean, I've read sci-fi before, but I'm still just like, I want my bread and butter is like people wearing cloaks in a forest and that kind of shit.
Yep.
Which, is kind of my second pick.
Let's go.
So I've mentioned this author a couple times before, Mercedes Lackey, and she's best known for writing the Valdemar series.
Okay.
She's written too many books, I think. She's written like over 30, and the quality kind of degrades. Yeah, you're like, this character's really cool in one book, and then the next they're totally weirdly different. Like, why?
Yeah.
But she's created this like really incredible world, and she has this set kind of like Valdemar's the main kingdom, and so she started writing these a sort of companion trilogy that happens in a couple kingdoms over, and it's called the Vows and Honor trilogy. But it's all short stories with some novellas in them, so you can kind of read any of the books in any order. And one of my favorite one is called Oathbound. So the series, it's like Oath, Blood, Oathbound, Oathbreaker, which is like sick. I think that's like so good in terms of a series names. And I like Oathbound because you get honestly like a really broad swath of like different experiences for the two characters, which is like a swordswoman who's sworn to her goddess because she had to take revenge of her whole clan getting killed. And she teams up with this sorceress and they become blood sisters and work as mercenaries.
Cool.
And so they go around like fighting demons and that kind of thing. And the sorceress has this sword called Need, which is a magical blade, and will essentially fight for her while she's doing...
It's called Need?
Yeah, the sword is called Need.
Need?
Yeah.
What a great name for a blade.
It's such a good name, but the kind of hang up of the sword is that the benefit is of getting to use it. You know, it will fight for you. It'll block you from getting attacked by magic. But if there's a woman in danger nearby, you have to go help them. Like the sword will make you do it.
Oh.
And so like they kind of have like ones where sometimes the sword's like on the right track, or sometimes they get kicked out because like the sword responds to like a woman yelling at her husband, but she like actually loves him. So they kind of get these like misadventures, but at the same time, it is in this book specifically, it is some of the most bloodthirsty scenes where I'm just like, wow, like this is so violent. Yeah. This is like rape and revenge in some cases, but taken to like the revenge is just like insane.
Yeah.
And she never makes her characters kind of pay the price for being super fucking violent in a way where I feel like sometimes female characters get roped into about like, oh, they feel guilty or whatever. And they're like, nope, this is my job. I had to fucking gouge his eyes out.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, thanks. See you later. But they're just really compelling characters. And I find myself like thinking they're some of her better books. So
I love it.
Also kind of like a nostalgia for me. I mean, my first two picks, like I said, kind of nostalgic, but
yeah,
she writes books for adults. So I'm really curious to see what you think of them.
I'm stoked. I also, unfortunately, it seems like I feel like a weird serial killer almost, but I don't, when you say like, yeah, there's like blood and guts and all that stuff, I'm like, yeah, that makes it better for me. Like,
I mean, it's cool.
When it's too like nice and like friendly and stuff, I'm like, oh God. Like,
well, I feel like from what we've said, both of us like a touch of realism in our fantasy.
For sure.
Like it's not easy running around killing people for a living, I would assume.
No, it's got to be tough, and blood gets everywhere, and why don't we write about that and the guilt of being like a hero? Anyway, we'll get into that more. All right, well, my third book, which I guess it's good because it's my third choice versus where your first choice was, but it's also Brian Jacques. It's the Tagarung.
Ooh, okay.
Which I just remember that one being like one of my favorites. It's more like a that one's more standalone, right? It's not.
Yes, I remember it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like an otter gets raised by like a weasel, and they try and turn the otter bad, and then the otter kind of realizes that he's not a bad guy. Yeah. So I just remember really liking that book when I was little, and like full out playing pretend games where I was the Tagarung or whatever. Like the chosen otter and all that stuff, and just I loved and Brian Jacques again. I couldn't not put him on the list because he was so influential when I was a young lad. I'm excited to reread that one. I think it's interesting. My friend pointed this out to me the other day that in Brian Jacques' books, his characters are like kind of like their moral arcs are generally fully formed. Like his world is like, if you're a mouse, you're good. If you're a rat, you're bad.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, this is the one where he kind of plays around with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, sidebar before I reveal my third pick, if you were in Brian Jacques' world, what would you be?
I think an otter.
Yeah, I would be a hare.
Yeah.
What might?
No, what might?
What might?
Yeah.
Pass the trifle.
Yeah. The hares were like fast talking. Yeah, and the otters were like more like river rat type, but good guys.
Yeah, they were cool.
Yeah.
They're like the hot kids from the other school. And they like drive by and you're like, oh my god,
is that an otter?
They can throw slings. I mean, stuff with slings. Really good.
And I grew up on like rivers and stuff like that. So it makes sense. Yeah.
You'd be an otter.
I'm a river guy. I love rivers.
Okay, so my last choice is more contemporary, and it's by this author I've become fully obsessed with. I've read almost all her books.
Yes.
She's so good. And this is the first one of hers I've read, and it's called Who Fears Death by Nnedi Okorafor.
Oh, I've heard about her.
She lives like outside of Chicago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I follow her on Twitter. And she's like a prolific writer. She just like produces
so much. She's up and coming. She's written a bunch of stuff.
Okay, I wanted to say she's coming, but she's up. That's the more normal way to say that. No, they're turning Who Fears Death into a series on HBO.
Oh, cool.
And George R.R. Martin is producing it.
Oh, fuck. Okay,
with her. So it's going to be...
That's the stamp.
So good. And so it's kind of set in a post-apocalyptic world, and it does talk about like race and stuff like that. And so basically the main character is the product of rape by a white man to her mom, and she's born with these magical powers, and I believe she's an albino. I could be remembering that incorrectly, but I believe she is. And so she kind of has to go, like, accept her immense power and magical destiny, sort of, and go on this quest to essentially, like, kill her dad.
Yeah.
And he's trying to kill her throughout the book, like, through magic means. But the characters are really striking, and it's just, like, it truly was reading something that I had never read before. And I was like, this is so good. I was so taken with it. And the characters are also clearly drawn, and also I like it when the characters aren't easy to like, sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Where you're like, well, I'm really
flaws.
getting and I'm getting the full emotional picture of what it would be like to, have like an origin of birth where your dad assaulted your mom, and like that's crazy.
Unlikable characters are almost more likable. I don't know how that when someone's like so perfect and you're like, all right, we get it. You're the freaking best.
Yeah.
Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I put down Name of the Wind for that reason.
What is Name of the Wind?
Supposedly one of the better, like, fantasy novels written in like I think the early 2000s. Patrick Roofus or something.
Patrick Roof is a good name.
Patrick Roof.
My name's Clare House.
He never finished the books, but apparently they were like, everyone loved them, big cult following. But the main character was just like the best all the time. So
like they always know what to do. They're always nice.
They're the best student all the time. They're like they're the chosen one, and it's So I'm excited. I've heard really good things about that. Her stuff.
I own one of her. Like she wrote this. It's kind of like a trilogy of novellas called Binti. That was so good.
I think that one's come up on my.
You can borrow it.
Recommended.
I have it
really?
In hardcover. I couldn't stop myself.
Hell yeah!
I had to buy it.
I know. I'm a big I do Audible or have it on my well, actually on here.
Okay, and, he picked up a gun.
On my gun. And yeah, sometimes the books are so good and you see them in like a used bookstore or something like that, and you're like, I gotta get it. I gotta
own it.
Yeah, I want that. I want to look at it. I've never really even opened it, but I want to look at it.
But I gotta know.
I had to buy Gideon the Ninth just because the names, there was too many names. Reading them or listening to the names was just I was losing track of everything.
I know. Okay, we're about to wrap up, but I want to give a little teaser, or just I'm excited to talk about Gideon the Ninth because I was so hesitant to read it at first based on the way it was marketed to me, which is like Amazon or Google ads is like, we can see this girl's bangs and we know she's probably kind of gay. So won't you want to read about lesbian necromancers?
And
I was
like, space.
Yeah, I was like, try harder.
And they were, I mean, in a teaser, I mean, Gideon definitely is attracted to women, but it's not like, it's not like a lesbian, like, it's not like
there's
not
sexual,
overly
almost
sexual.
At all.
Yeah, just what the main character is just like. Yeah, she's got a great ass, like that. Yeah,
cool.
She'll be like, and what she did was so hot, and you're like, she's just so funny.
Yeah, she's so funny.
The way it's written is so good. Well, hell
yeah. Oh my God.
This has been our first episode.
We hope that, you could kind of see a little bit of yourself in us in our freakish childhoods. You played sports. I wanted to have sex with a horse.
And my sports were foam swords.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, yeah, this has been so fun. And read Gideon the Ninth before next week, and we'll be here to discuss it with you.
Yeah, we will. We're excited. Do we even have comments yet? We don't know, but say something in the comments. So put something in it. Let us know if you want us to read a book. If you ever interacted with me on a Harry Potter forum, do not comment, like, or subscribe. And if you were on that women's soccer team, call Chris. That I sword fought next to, why didn't you date me? Yeah, I was so impressive. Kind of the big question. Hell yeah, cool. Finito.